Hi, good morning, afternoon, wherever you're based right now. Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. We are going to be discussing engaging your key medical affairs stakeholders during this virtual world, which has always been a virtual world for us at Within3 because we've been doing this for over 13 years. But we're excited to be here, so thank you for having us. And today I am Amy Pinelli. I am working a regional vice president role at Within3 in business partnerships. So I partner with all of the clients from the pharmaceutical biotech industry. And I've been in the pharmaceutical space for the last 25 years. And it's all I know at this point. And I'll let Petra introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Petra Lösch. I work at a biotech company called BeiGene in a medical affairs group, and my main focus is engagement with key opinion leaders. And we've been working with the Within3 platform over the last year.
Great, thank you. We're also going to do a quick poll right now. So we're going to launch the poll. So the poll is going to come up here. So the polling question is, when will you feel comfortable going back to live meetings? The first answer is never. 3 months, right around the end of summer. 6 months, which would be about before the end of the year, or right now. You're comfortable right now. So just want to see how comfortable you feel. I know different parts of the country, we kind of talked about this in prior presentations today about, maybe in the South, they're willing to meet up and be a little bit more free, and up in New York, maybe not so much. So it looks like we have 48% that say before the end of the year. Okay, so that's good. That sounds about right. At that point, a lot of the United States, at least, will be vaccinated. So that's good to see. And then let me get to the next polling question. Oh, here we go. Hold on a second. All right, so the next polling question is, hold on a second, I don't know what happened here. How do you see, wait, I'm sorry about that. It kind of flipped too quickly, sorry about that. How do you see virtual engagement changing post-pandemic? So there would be, meaning virtual engagement will not change. You are going to keep virtual engagement as the only meeting option. The second one would be a slight change, using virtual engagement as a complement to your live meeting. So just complementing it, but sticking with your live as the main source. And then a drastic change, which would move fully to live in-person interactions with minimal virtual interaction. So it looks like our results are in, and it shows that 88% or 89 is going up as we speak. This is great. A slight change, use virtual engagement as a complement to live meetings. Okay. All right, this is good to see. So thank you for your participation. I really appreciate that. So going from real-time engagement to virtual is something that everyone had to do starting in March last year. Obviously, they didn't have a choice. Live meetings weren't an option. But typically, when live meetings were available, our clients would do live meetings, and then they would supplement those live meetings throughout the year with virtual engagement. Some clients even going 100% virtual. They do like that live face-to-face interaction because there's nothing that can replace that handshake and that live interaction. So what's a really nice, basically segue into virtual is something we call the hybrid approach. That's where you have a webcast and a live interaction to kick off a virtual meeting. The virtual meeting is something that takes place over time, as you see on the right side. It is an overtime meeting platform, which is Within3, where you discuss whatever is needed to gather deep insights and robust feedback over a period of time. What that means is no one has to be online at the same time. All you have to do is have an internet connection, and then you can be brought directly into the secure platform. So you can engage from any device, anytime, anywhere. So what's nice, and what happened a lot during this pandemic, was our clients came to us and said, okay, we need to take this live meeting we had and make it virtual. So they came to us. A lot of our clients, unfortunately, learned the hard way that they just moved right to 100% webcast. And unfortunately, that was not a good plan, because they took an 8-hour meeting and said, let's have a 6-hour webcast. And even Zoom, after the first month of the pandemic, said no webcast should ever be more than an hour. There's just Zoom fatigue. There's a lot of reasons why with adult learning principles that it's not good to go longer than an hour in a live webcast. So what we decided to do with our clients was launch with that live webcast in the beginning and then bring in the virtual platform after. So everyone's acclimated to one another. They can say hello, get comfortable with each other. So there's that live interaction virtually, but you see each other and you're on the screen at the same time. And then you launch the virtual platform where you can engage in very deep discussion. And then a lot of times we wrap up with that webcast again. So this is kind of how it works as the approach. So, you launch that live webcast, you have a kickoff, and then you open up that question and answer period where it's an ongoing dialogue over those 2 weeks. Petra may be joining me and typing in answers and providing her feedback late at night. And then I may be able to come in the morning and engage with Petra when it works well for me. We could also be in different time zones. So that's kind of how that works. It's very convenient, very flexible. You work whenever it's convenient for you from any device. What's also nice is there's also a save draft feature in that. So, sometimes a doctor may get called away for a patient or something may happen and they start to draft their answer. They don't lose it. They don't have to post it before they can pre-read it and kind of make sure it's right. They have the ability to come back and have that saved draft there from any device, and then they can finish their comment and then they can post it, which is very, very nice. So that's just a side note. So then you can wrap up that meeting again, and you can have all the feedback you need once you close out that session, and you get all your deliverables and everything you need from Within3. What's also nice with that is Within3 will go through a report for you. So the report will provide you with all the metrics from the session where you'll know exactly who said what, when they said it, how much time they spent in the platform, as well as what questions solicited the most response, and then, what respondent was the most, responsive, what participant. And that goes for, who you want to invite back for future sessions, those that obviously gave a lot of feedback and really took the time to provide, good insights. So now we're looking at what these medical affairs trends kind of look like, how they went, what we're seeing. We're seeing that virtual hybrid focus, like I mentioned, where you have that live webcast, you kick off with the live webcast, and then you have the ongoing engagement in the overtime Within3 session. What's really important is the thoughtful selection of what exactly you want to do. Every meeting is different. Sometimes if those advisors or your KOLs, stakeholders, whoever they might be, have good relationships previously, then there's really no need potentially to have that live interaction, except again, in this case for the last year, which no one expected, is no one has seen each other for a long time. So you might want to just kind of see their faces, but you want to be able to pick what medium will work best for you. So a lot of times, like I mentioned, that is launching with that live webcast, then taking a deep dive into the session over our average is about 2-week duration. And then closing out with that webcast, and then finding new ways that you can reach these, KOLs or stakeholders in a virtual way. Some might like that live interaction and definitely want that webcast, and some are good with just that virtual platform. So what also comes with that and going virtual is a lot of benefits. One of which we see the most of is a huge cost savings and then increased participation. So what that does is it also helps when engaging virtually because you get more diverse voices around your virtual conference table. What happens is I've talked to so many clients. I've also spoke at different conferences before where the audience has told me, who are the pharmaceutical life science industry, and they say that, oh, we always go to the same KOLs. They're the ones that respond. They're the ones that are able to travel. They like to travel. They enjoy traveling. It's a great partnership. However, what about all those voices you're not hearing from? There's the inclusivity of hearing from everyone, getting more diverse voices, having the potential to have more people interacting in your platform, which is great. Also, there's the carbon footprint with sustainability. That's also a big need right now in our world. And we're seeing, I remember when COVID first hit, you're seeing places around the world that used to not be able to see, miles out, and now they can because, the carbon footprint is getting so much better and people are staying at home and it's, safer for the environment. Also, there comes a work-life balance. when you're going out to a live meeting, you're leaving your family for the weekend or whatever it might be, a night or things like that. So you're not able to kind of have that nice work-life balance, which is important. Now we might be in the life balance piece a little much with being home all the time. It's been great. I'm loving spending time with my family, but I'm like, wow, it's always the work-life balance. You're always trying to pull back from work, and now work is your life because you're at home and everything's together. And also, all the patient centricity, everything else that goes along with that, with, being, connected in a global world with everyone from around the world at different time zones, which typically if you had a live meeting, you'd be taking people, it'd be inconvenient for someone to even take place in a webcast. It's going to be late for someone at night. And now let's say Petra is in Europe, we can have a call whenever we want because we're just engaging in the platform virtually whenever it works well for us. And it's flexible to be in our time. So we make the call on when we want to participate. So that being said, I'm now going to move into our medical affairs oncology case study where Petra comes in. Like Petra mentioned, we've been working with her organization for over a year now. BeiGene is her company, and she's going to describe a little bit about her interaction and how she worked in our virtual platform. So what I wanted to do first, Petra, is thank you for participating in this conference and helping us to describe how you worked and what your experience was with Within3 and how you accomplished your goals. So most importantly, just overall, could you tell us about your latest virtual program?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. So we are just actually still running our first hybrid series for BeiGene, which we started off on April 27th with the webcasts that Amy mentioned. We actually had 8 of them in one day. And the online portion of it is still running actively through May 11th. This was for one of our outreach program, which included 39 US-based physicians that were spread across 5 regional forums, discussion forums. Each one of them was led by one of our field medical directors, which is what we call our MSLs, and they had an oncology focus. So the advisors were broken into groups, into 5 groups based on their region and assigned moderator. And actually the field medical directors originally picked their groups from key opinion leaders from their region. And then each FMD kicked off their session by holding the webcast. During the webcast, they present the data. And then following the webcast, which was 1 hour, we launched the asynchronous session, the discussion forum, which lasts for about 2 weeks. And so far, participation has been really great and exceeded our expectations, and we're very happy with the forum.
Great. So that sounds like a great program that you had in mind. So kudos to you for creating that. But if you didn't engage these 39 HCPs using the Within3 virtual platform, how do you think you would accomplish your goals, especially, where we are right now in the world with the pandemic and everything?
Yeah, so for the hybrid series we just mentioned, which was for one of our bigger outreach program, accomplishing the same goal would have been very difficult. Difficult in terms of organization. It would have been extremely time consuming. Basically, you would have had each MSL reach out to their individual KOLs, present the data to each one of them, and then go over the questions with the physician. Having the hybrid format allowed each FMD to present the data in the webcast to the whole group of advisors. And then following that, the advisors go online over the course of 2 weeks, log in according to their own schedule as it fits, and participates. So within the online session in our space, the FMDs could interact directly with the HCPs when they respond to questions. They follow up, they keep the connection going, keep the momentum alive. But a huge advantage to the hybrid meeting is not only that we as the host company can interact with the KOLs, but the KOLs themselves can interact with each other. So you have a peer-to-peer interaction, which would not be achievable that easily outside the platform. An additional advantage is that once the HCPs log into the platform, they can either listen to the webcast again if they're uncertain about what they remember, or revisit the data. Many of the questions we ask within the forum have a slide or two associated with a question with the relevant data. And so the HCPs can see the data again they are asked to review. It's very useful. They answer the questions, and then that's another good thing is you have the answer there in writing. If your FMD is having an individual discussion with a KOL over the data, you may be able to capture some of the feedback, but probably not all of them and not all of it accurately. So a huge advantage is that you have the feedback from the KOL right there in writing. And another thing I wanted to mention is one of our options was that we included a medical writer. So we have our 5 regional forums, and you can have a medical writer who can put together an executive summary and analysis, an in-depth analysis across multiple events. And that is something that is extremely hard to accomplish in a series of live one-on-one meetings.
Great, thank you. Now, my next question would be, when you did this virtual engagement, do you believe it can be just as meaningful as in-person interactions?
Absolutely. I think, overall, there are many advantages to virtual engagements. And as you mentioned earlier, we learned a lot over the last year. One of, and I want to maybe address 2 different parts of this. So one of it is one-on-one meetings at conferences, engagements with KOLs. When the pandemic hit last year, it changed a lot the way we interact with key opinion leaders in this new virtual world. And usually for conferences, we schedule a lot of one-on-one meetings. At live meetings, you have the chance to meet up with your key opinion leaders for a quick chat, you catch up, you get a coffee. Once the pandemic hit, our physicians, our oncologists, not only had to take care of their oncology practice, they were also pulled into helping out with COVID. So in terms of one-on-one meetings at conference, we had to take a step back and take a good look at how we interact with our outside collaborators. Every meeting that we wanted to schedule, we wanted to be considerate of KOL's time. So we took a step back, looked a little bit more carefully at the objectives for the meeting. How important is the meeting? Is there a good reason for it? So in that sense, there was a shift for us to not only have meetings that have a specific purpose to them and clear objectives, but also be considerate of the physician's time. And so in that sense, it made the virtual engagement more meaningful for us. In terms of advisory boards and discussion forums, I think they can be just as meaningful virtually, if not more, as if they are live. Of course, we all love meeting our KOLs in person. It's great to connect with them and meeting with them live. But having a hybrid session, like we just discussed, comes with a whole slew of advantages. The key one for me is it allows you to have access to a larger group and a more diverse group of advisors. Not every physician goes to 10 conferences every year like we do. They pick 1 or 2 conferences that are relevant to them, and that's it. So if you want a more diverse group of advisors, not just the ones who go to conferences all the time, this is a huge advantage. The other one is you can bring cross-functional groups together in a virtual environment. You may have an objective for your advisory board that spans across tumor types or other parameters you want to consider, and those physicians may not go to the same conferences. In a virtual environment, you can do that. You can have a cross-functional team. I think also you can add variety of resources in a virtual environment, which we do in the hybrid sessions, like pre-meeting surveys, pre-reads, polls. I think that would be tougher to bring into a live meeting. And then, of course, as Amy mentioned earlier, having a platform like this, the physicians can participate according to their own schedule and contribute. They contribute in writing. Sometimes you find that in live advisory boards, not every advisor will participate. You know, some are more outspoken than others, some are more reserved. And I think overall, it will allow you to get more comprehensive feedback. So all of these make, I think, virtual meetings very meaningful, and in some cases allow more functionality than a live event.
Thank you, Petra. That's a really great point. I know that a lot of our clients have said exactly what you said. Sometimes you don't hear from people in that live meeting. They sit back, you know, they could be on their phone. You're not even sure if they're really even, you know, engaged in the conversation. And then, you know, you're paying them an honoraria and you're paying those same folks that are talking quite a bit, the same amount. And you think like, this isn't really fair. These people have said a lot and provided a lot of feedback, where some have sat back and not said a word. But I really like the point you brought up about, I didn't even think about this as being an issue for you, which is great, is the fact that some of those KOLs that you're looking to reach were on the front lines of COVID because they were so needed in the beginning of the pandemic. That's so important to respect their time, to say, hey, I don't need you to travel somewhere live because you can't anyway. But now you can still provide your great feedback, but you can do it virtually. So that's great. So thank you for that. Okay. So I do have one more question for you. So now, how are you feeling about the future of engaging with your KOLs? Let's just say the world gets back to the way we once knew it and the live meetings are okay. What are your thoughts on the future of engaging with your KOLs?
Thanks, Amy. So I think actually it's interesting the way you worded it, but I think my vision of future KOL engagements, that we are certainly not going back to the way it used to be. While I believe that at some point conferences and events will be live again, I think there are good reasons for us to apply the lessons learned in our virtual year, if you will, and continue to have certain activities as virtual events. I think virtual advisory boards, honestly, are easier to organize, more cost effective, as you mentioned. They allow for inclusion of a larger and much more diverse group of advisors and cross-functional participation. So I think that is certainly the case. I think that will be different. The discussion forums we discussed as hybrid sessions, I think will remain an effective way to organize larger outreach efforts with a really diverse group of KOLs. I think the other thought that I had was, you know, last year, of course, the pandemic caught us all off guard. But I think after a slow start where we and also our collaborators, our KOLs, had to sort of, you know, take a step back, I think it was a reset for us. You know, we had to think a little different how we interact with each other. But I think slowly, not just on our side, but I think also the HCPs, the KOLs, have started to embrace the virtual world as well, and realized some of the advantages of different types of virtual engagements, and have made themselves, you know, more readily available for them. So I think we're not going to go back to the way it used to be, but I think there's a lot of lessons learned, best practices we can carry over into the future.
Absolutely. I agree. I absolutely agree, because you're right. A lot of people are going to be anxious to get back to live. They haven't done that in quite a while. But I think it's important that you kind of do both. you have your live meetings when live meetings are something that's necessary, and then you can supplement those meetings with the virtual platform, because now more than ever, everyone knows the options available. I mean, everyone's turning on their cameras on Zooms now. I mean, it's a whole different world now virtually. So that's a really great point. So thank you again, Petra. So I do want to officially thank you for being our case study and describing your experience working with Within3. I really appreciate your time and your effort, getting your case study together for us. So now we'd like to open it up to questions. So I know there's some questions coming in the chat, and I assume they are going to be filtered and coming to me. So go.
Excellent. Thank you both. That was, it's really nice to kind of see it working and hear a real life case example. I was very curious. I'm looking forward to joining the Zoom party afterwards to learn about a little bit more. There was one question that, and you might have covered it, but there was a question on honoraria. Like, what does the honoraria look like for this type of setting versus, like a virtual ad board? How do you think about that? Or is there any standard way to approach that?
Right. Good question. And that's a question we certainly discussed a lot with our compliance group as well. So I think, in the way we do it for the honoraria, of course, the physicians for their participation get paid for the webcast. But then the question is, how do you reimburse them for their time spent in the discussion forum online? And you do get metrics back as to how much each physician spends, how much time they spend answering the question. And so for us, the way we do it is when we do the contracting, we let them know that for the online portion, for their answering questions, they get paid up to a certain amount of hours, let's say 2 or 3 hours over the course of 2 weeks. And then we check the metrics at the end of the session and pay them accordingly. It's interesting because some people participate and they may participate only an hour, but their feedback is very, very good. Whereas somebody may participate a longer amount of time, but maybe their feedback is not as good or as valuable. So it's really tricky to sort of walk that line between, are we just reimbursing them for time, or do we judge the quality of their feedback as well? But for now, I think we're sticking with the time factor and paying them accordingly to time spent.
Yeah,
right.
It's just like,
and that's exactly how we.
It's similar to live ads.
Exactly.
Where some people talk on, some people don't. I'm sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, and that's how we see it as well. What happens when clients come to us with their content, we see how much content's in there, and we provide them with an estimate of what a good honoraria might be as far as just looking at the content. It's pre-reads, it's how many questions are involved, are they open-ended questions, are they multiple choice, things like that. So we provide you with an estimate, but Petra's right. It's a really good way to be able to tack on at the back end to say, okay, is this right? Are we paying them the right amount? Did they provide enough feedback to be able to be paid, 4 hours of time, things like that. So yes, you do pay them the honoraria, and it's an estimated time that they will need to accomplish and complete that activity. And that's how we work it. So it's a little easier. And what our clients have said is they do play less time in the virtual platform than they would in the live meeting. And part of that is because of the time that they're paying for travel and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. No, there's cost savings really resonates. Makes a lot of sense too, in time and money for everybody. With that, I do want to conclude this session.